long have you been doing this?
Podcasts or in general?
No, in general, like your REMA.
REMA's coming up on 8 years now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How did you get started? Like, did you just one day said, "I'm so sick of having a job"?
No,
Yeah.
it's funny you would say that because I mean I've told this story a million times. To begin with, I've only worked for a company one time in my life when I was coming
Okay.
out of college.
Okay.
I affectionately say I started my first company I was 8. I was living in Fresno, California. Let's see, we lived there from 7 to 9. So it would have been that second summer, something like that. It was going to date me hard, by the way. And I had a little lawn mowing service. I rented the lawnmower from my father, so I had to keep it gassed up and stuff. And I had 3 customers. I made $5 a week from each one of them. So I had $15 a week in the 80s, man. This was like real money. Like I was the only kid in the neighborhood who could go to the arcade almost all day long on his own money. He wasn't having to beg mom and dad for quarters. And I had that for one summer, and I must have been 2 summers because then we moved after the second year again, and that's when I moved to Utah. It was a little bit after that, actually. Anyway, but that was affectionately my first company, and I learned a lot about. I had to pay my father back for the gas, and I had to buy the twine for the little, electric weed eater or whatever it was. I mean, it was real work. And then I started my first company in just as I was coming out of college, or as my second year of college. And I've really only been building companies since then. I mean, REMA's my 6th, and I started it in. I would have started in, maybe it's not quite. See, we're 26 now, so what is he? Started it in roughly 16, 17 time frame. So I guess we're a little.
Oh, 9 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, 9 years.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So so it's been an interesting story. But the whole thing started is because I met a broker. I had a previous company that you and Josh, I actually tried to reach out to you guys back then, but you wouldn't take my calls. And
I wouldn't take your calls.
no, you wouldn't take my calls.
Really?
It was a closing gift company, and we did a really cool closing gift product. It was called Silent Marketing Solution.
I take everybody's call.
Well, you
Huh.
didn't take mine
That's
back
my.
then, so I don't know what that says about
What
me or
year?
my idea.
What year is this? What year is
Oh
this?
shit. This would have been 14, 15, maybe a little 13, 14, 15 time frame.
Oh man, we were tiny.
Yeah, you guys were tiny back
We
then. Yeah.
probably had like 1,000 agents, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I was trying to I remember I talked to Josh for about 30 seconds. I reminded him of this, by the way. He didn't remember either. And I said, yeah,
I
you and
don't
I talked for
remember.
about 5 minutes. And I went, I've got this great idea, closing gift company, blah, 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 long-term solutions. And he went, oh, that's nice. That was the end of it. He
Can
wouldn't
I
say another
can,
word.
can I tell you a story about a great idea?
Yeah.
You say I will sidebar here. 1999, right? A friend of mine and I co-founded HowStuffWorks.com, which was a website.
Okay.
It was very popular. We're getting 10 million visitors a month. A month, yeah, crazy like crazy. We get this call from this guy with his heavy Australian accents, British that we couldn't figure out. And the guy's like, "We have this great idea. It's a company that does micropayments, and we want you guys to write an article about us." And we're like, "Great idea. What is a micropayment?" So of course we didn't do anything with them. That company was PayPal.
Oh, that one's got to hurt.
And he didn't have any money to pay us. He was going to pay us in
Wow.
stock.
Boy,
No,
only
when
you
I hear
know.
I have a great idea, I typically do listen now.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't know why. I don't know if we didn't
yeah,
connect why, because I learned my lesson about not paying attention to people that say I have a great
yeah.
idea, because
Well,
you
then,
never
yeah.
know.
So then I was work. I By this time I'd moved down here to Florida from Texas, and I moved a lot. So from Texas to here, and I started working with a broker up in Tampa. And over the course of my career, I had met with so many brokers who all were the same thing, Marco. It was, I'm so sick of doing this. Their agents
Yeah,
are like herding cats. I want to go spend time with my grandkids. There's yeah, the same. It was like a Louis L'Amour book. It's just insert complaint here and then move on. Okay,
yeah. Frustration. Yeah, yeah.
the frustration. So at that point, I had met some people, and I said, well, he was a Remax guy. And I said, well, let me kind of see what I can do to help you. And I don't know why at that moment, it was just one of those things that clicked in my brain. and it was complex. Man, he had like 7 different franchises. He had 5 different offices, attachments for title that he owned. Like it was the of everything on the planet.
Spaghetti mess.
Yeah, it was the biggest disaster ever. And I said, okay. Took about a year, and we finally got him sold
Wow.
off because it was just too complicated. He had to stay within the Remax family, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and he is happily, last time I heard from him, it's been a bit now, but last time I heard from him, he was happily sailing around the Caribbean on yet another cruise ship. I don't think the guy's touched dry land in probably 8 years or something like that. And yeah, that was the incipitus
You
of REMA, which was the change from the other people that do this. And look, there's only a handful of us, that really go out and do what we do. Is I
right.
just said I'm going to work with the sellers. I'm going to represent the sellers. Everybody else up until that point had
The
been more
buyers.
focused on the buyers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's where the money was at. And I went, no, let's inverse this. And then you know how you and I've done a fair number of
Yeah.
transactions
Yeah.
together.
You
You'll
helped me.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You helped me with my home group. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. That was actually for what
my
was that 2 years
22.
ago, 3
No, it was
end
a
of
year and a
20
half ago. Year and a half
end
ago.
of 24, right? Is
End
that
of 24. Yeah. I
kind of
think it was
when?
October, November 1st. We closed.
Ah, was it really? Gee.
Yeah. November 1st. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
time
that was
time
a
flies.
big, I mean,
But
that
at
was a
that
big acquisition. I mean,
that
that
was
was
a
a
big
nice,
deal at that time. I mean,
yeah.
now, we think 20, what was it, 2,200
22.
agents or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Now it's
Now,
nothing.
yeah, now
Now
it's
it's
nothing.
like,
It was funny you would say that. I was thinking about this as I was kind of thinking about, our conversation this morning, and I was pondering, the last time we saw each other was in New York at Inman, and all we were talking about
yeah. Yeah.
was the Compass Anywhere merger.
Yeah.
And here we are, what, only 5 months later, plus or minus, and now it's,
Well, we talked about. We said they were going to be.
well, we
I
knew that,
use this. I use this analogy. If you're a football guy, when the new team in the draft, when the new team is on the clock, and they say the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. I'm a Steelers fan. I
yeah,
said to you, I said, I think that there's 5 or 6 companies on the clock now,
I did.
right?
I remember
And,
that.
yeah, and I said, look, I think there's 5 or 6 companies on the clock, and what happened? And again, I've seen this in so many different industries. The companies now get forced to do something, especially if you're public.
Oh, yeah,
You get pressure now to go do something,
right,
and some people end up making bad deals. Like
yeah,
sometimes you get forced to make bad deal for the sake of making a deal.
right.
And I said to you, look, we were talking to a group of people. I said, I think, some of those other companies that, we know who they are, uh, they are on the clock,
Yeah,
and we already saw another deal. It
yes,
surprised me a little, to be honest with you.
me as well.
Not that Remax was getting acquired, but that Rio acquired
It was
them. I thought it was going to be somebody else.
Well, I thought it was going to be
Um,
KW. I thought
yeah,
KW
yeah, I
and
thought, yeah,
Remax
yeah,
had to
yeah,
do it.
Stone Point,
Those
yeah,
were the only 2 models in my mind that really
yeah,
fit together. They were big enough that they could make a larger
yeah.
splash. But as I thought about it later, and I think I
I
even said
think
this to somebody else, the problem was there's no way that I never can remember the PE group's name. Is it Capital?
Stone
Stone
Point,
Capital?
Stone Point, Stone
Stone
Point.
Point. That's what it is. Yeah. There's no way they're going to let KW go, and there was no version where Lineker was going to
No,
let Remax and
yeah,
that those two companies. It's the
that's
management. I thought the company model could fit. The
yeah,
management structure, I don't think could have fit. And so,
yeah,
but this one
yeah.
came out of the blue. I mean, this one.
Yeah, I thought it was going
And
to be them. Not that it's going to be a perfect marriage, because by the way, it's hard. Look, I think I've done in multiple industries 60, 70 acquisitions in my life, and by no means I'm expert. I just have scars. I tell people I just have scars.
few
I
broken
don't.
bones.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. It's because everyone is different. Like people ask me, so what is your cook? Like, do you have a cookie cutter kind of? I'm like a cookie cutter. Like everything's different. Like they store. I mean, you probably
Yeah.
know. Like
Oh yeah.
you get to the closing, all of a sudden the person owes $1 million to the IRS and never told us about,
Right.
or oh, by the way, I have 3 ex-wives and they all want to get paid, and they want, and your or 3 ex-husbands, or whatever it is. I mean, it's so yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's M&A is not easy, and you know this better than I do. So
Yeah. No, I've got one right now. This one, for some reason, cracks me up. It's $2.5 million plus or minus. So it's not a huge deal, but it's
yeah,
significant.
hey, to them it's
The
big, right?
the seller now has decided that he is willing to die on his sword for 100 grand. He wants another 100 grand as
Yeah.
his closing monies.
So
It's
I
like are you
Yeah,
$100,000? But
I've learned. So one of the things I've learned. So people ask me, I say, look, it's not that I cookie cutter, but I've learned some lessons. Like I've learned some lessons. There's always something that they're gonna die on that road for.
yeah.
You got to figure that out as early as possible, because
Well,
there is always something.
yeah,
There is always something that's that, because they want to feel like they're in control,
right.
and there's always something
Yeah.
like, and you
And
gotta, the sooner you figure that out, the better.
well, and I'm used to that part of it. I mean, as I have said endlessly, all of my team, we're part therapist, part business broker, and part priest, right?
90% therapist.
Yeah, 90% therapist. You got to get through the first 5 months of therapy just to get to the point where you get to the business side of it. But this one, I can't figure out
Oh,
because the guy is already wealthy. I mean, to put it in context, he owns his own plane. Like
not
he doesn't, and he's even said out loud, "I don't need the money. It's
not
not
about
about
the money. It's about
something." Is
control.
yeah,
It's about they're gonna do what I want.
yeah,
They're taking my baby away, because it's
yeah.
always about it's my baby.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like the people selling their house.
yeah.
Well, they should pay more money because I raised my kids in the house.
Sure.
Well, the people buying the house don't care that you raised your kids in
Yeah.
the house.
No, exactly, exactly.
So it's the company's their baby, and it's not about the money often. It's just about that. No, they're
Yeah,
gonna agree to what I want, and
right.
that's, I want an extra 100,000, and that's it. And they
Yeah,
will not. They will make an emotional decision.
yeah. You
That's
you would
what.
think
What?
at
Yes.
this stage of the game and at this particular broker's age, he would know better. But here we are fighting our way
It's
through it. So
yeah, it's just what makes your job and so hard. That it's not. I often say it's not even. Um, it's not all the financial stuff and all that. It's always the emotional stuff,
yeah.
right?
Well,
It's
I think we both said that together when a few
Oh,
times
that's right. That's right. That's
we
right.
both said this is
Yeah.
the finance part is easy. I mean, all I got is a list of P&Ls. Here's what they're adding back. Here's what we're not. Blah
One,
blah blah blah.
couple hours, you ask a bunch of
Yeah,
questions, you know what the stuff is, what's broken, what's
yeah,
not, what
yeah,
figure out, all that is the emotional stuff.
yeah.
And they
And
almost
that's
have to go through, it's when you lose a loved one, and you go through all the emotions, like
oh yeah,
they have to go through all the emotions of it. And I also think sometimes, and you know this better than I do, you have to take your time. Sometimes if you go too fast, it
yeah.
blows up, right?
Oh yeah.
And you got to
More
take
often
your
than not.
time. And yeah, no, you're a psychiatrist. Yeah, you're a therapist, psychiatrist, priest, whatever, pastor, whatever,
Oh yeah.
marriage counselor. How many times have you had a couple and they disagree, and
Oh
they're coming to you, right?
yep.
They're coming to you to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, you tell us, you
Yeah.
decide."
Uh-huh. No, I had one where
You
it
mediate,
was a husband wife team,
right?
and the husband was ready to sell, and he wrote a letter for us to put on our letterhead so we could give it back to him so he could give it to his wife,
Oh
saying
my
we
God.
can't do what you want us to. He's like, I can't explain it to her. She's not. And he said, okay, here's what I want you to say. This is what will get her mentally over the hump. And okay, so we did it, and like 2 weeks later, she finally goes, oh, okay. And to be honest, what it really came down to, Marco, is she had a number stuck in her mind of what she thought she wanted to retire with, let's call it, or
Yeah, yeah,
however you want to put that. There was no version mathematically where we could get there. And I
yeah,
could not for weeks convince her that that was
yeah,
just the reality.
yeah.
Because that number, as soon
You
as it locked in, she wasn't about to let it go. And
you have so much fun.
in fairness, I probably have more fun than you. As stressful as it is most days, I probably have more fun than you. I don't know
Oh,
how you can be part of a publicly traded company, especially running it. I get up every morning. I love my job. I like working with the clients and the team and
uh,
all that. I can't say that out of a CEO of a publicly traded company.
it's hard. It's not easy. It's special. Look, it was easier when the market was booming,
Of
21,
course.
22, and everything was, but running a company, public company, and then running it, in a market that's been, probably the toughest market. I mean, I saw a chart the other day, of transactions for the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the chart, you don't have to say anything else.
Oh yeah.
You just look at the chart and you say all it says is pain.
Yep.
That's it. It's pain. And yeah, it's hard. And the emotional aspect, the financial aspect, it's hard, not easy. It's certainly not fun. That is, yeah. So
I remember in 24, I think. I don't know if it was you. I don't remember who I was talking to. And they said, well, 25's going to be slow, but it'll be fine. I went, no. it's not going to be fine. Like it's gonna hurt hard. Sure enough, I was proven correct, and I
I
certainly
think
wasn't
it's
the only one saying this. I'm not some Nostradamus who came up with something that nobody else saw.
yeah.
But then as 25 started to come through, I was getting a bunch of people asking me, "Well, what do you think 26 is going to be like?" Because we think it's going to start riding back up, and I went, "No, it's not. You've got one more year of this at least." I'm now thinking mid 27. You might say first part of 27, but I think
I
mid
think
27 is the real
yeah, I
window.
think it depends the expectation. What do you mean?
Well,
I was talking to somebody who's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go back to 22." I'm like, "No, you're
no,
not.
no, we'll
We're
never
not
get.
going."
I mean, we won't get there for anher 7 years or 8 years at least. I
I
mean,
don't know. I certainly probably will not be in this industry, that's for sure. But because I'll be dead. So, but I
that
don't know.
stroke you've been hoping for is gonna
Yeah,
hit you. That'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
the good news.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that life insurance is gonna pay out.
There you go.
uh, it's just, I mean, there's just so many issues, the structural issues, right?
Yeah.
Um, you have and everybody's so focused on interest rates. It's not really interest rates
No.
because 6%, 6.5% been average. If you go back, 50 years, whatever it is, or 40. I remember I bought my first house. I think actually my sister bought it because I was underage at 17, I think. And I've had my first company when I was 16.
Mm,
And I think I bought interest of 14% or some
yeah.
crazy number.
Sounds about right.
So it's the prices of the houses compared to what people earn. It's the
Yep.
affordability thing.
Yep.
So, if prices of houses come down 10%, we have a less of an issue.
Right.
And it's going to take a lot of time for inflation to adjust in prices of houses. That's the
Well,
issue. I mean,
without turning political, maybe necessarily, because this is a
yeah,
both sides problem. But
sure.
look, until the government, generically speaking, I don't care which side, blue or red, doesn't really matter to me. But generically speaking, until the government stops printing money, the inflation rate's going to stay at a point in which it's just going to keep throwing the entire market off. I know they keep promising it won't. Like somehow every politician who's never run a company has probably never even seen how a company is run, has no concept of anything other than how to
Wait,
suck up.
how do you spell payroll?
Yeah,
How's
how do you
that?
spell
What is
payroll? Exactly. And yet they'll somehow jump on TV and go, no, it's all fine. We can go print another $5 trillion. Sorry,
You
guys.
listen, I was born in Brazil. I grew up in Brazil.
Yeah,
When I was a kid, I left Brazil when I was 13. I came to the US.
right.
Um, there was a period of time in Brazil where no one had printed prices anywhere. So if you go to a restaurant, the menu had no prices
Right.
because they would change the prices every day.
Probably,
Every
yeah.
day.
Probably depending on what
People
car you drove in on, they would change it for that
the
meal.
people the inflation was so high that people, I mean, this is how crazy this is. People get paid twice a day,
Yeah.
every day. Not once a month, not once a week, not once every day, twice a day. So it's a drug, and what happens when politicians, because the pain of adjusting things is now and the benefit is later.
Right.
They don't want the pain now because they want to get reelected, and so you have this thing that's
Yeah,
just
it's a perverse set of incentives, and unfortunately, until we as a
top
civilization or as a culture, whatever you want to call it, as a country, decide that our long-term health, financial health, is more important than our short-term financial
pain.
pain is
Yeah,
is worth
pain.
it. We'll continue down this road
But
endlessly until U.S. is
be,
bankrupt.
because the problems our politicians are not directly aligned to short term. They're
Exactly.
so because I'm sorry, to long term. They're short. So
Right.
if you all of a sudden change and say, okay, House of Representatives now is 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and senators are 6 years. That's it, and you cannot get reelected. You cannot get one term, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they say, look, you know what? We're going to be the saviors. We're going to do all the pain because they can't throw us out for 6 years. Or maybe you can get reelected, yeah, after things
Right.
improve. But this is probably one of the, if you think about the history of this country, not to digress to, but like, the U.S. Constitution and our government is ingenious. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's copied all over the world. Brazil is a copy of the U.S. They
Sure.
made some modifications, but they copied the U.S.
Right.
with some modifications, like it's a democracy where everybody gets to vote
Yeah.
as opposed to a republic. But the whole thing about, and so they designed the House of Representatives every 2 years because they want the ability for people to change, fire people.
Yeah.
Well, that backfired on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think I would even go so far as this much is I would make, well, two changes. One is that if you could do another constitutional amendment, which is a balanced budget, a federal balanced budget. I think you do that. Well, I'm just saying, in the perfect world,
my
that would be
God,
one.
Mark, you're an optimist. I didn't
I
realize
know,
that.
right? I know. What can I say? With what I
You're
do
an
for a living, I have to be.
you're an optimist.
Yeah,
Look
I
at
know.
you.
So you do a balanced budget amendment and you do term limits. You do those two things, and 90% of the rest of the stuff gets solved in a heartbeat.
I had a
Because
conversation with a friend of mine the other day, yesterday, a couple of days ago. I said, if you really want to change the way politics in the U.S., for third parties not to run for president, you're never going to win a president third party because the electoral vote, the way it is, it's,
yeah,
you know, you actually create a third party in Congress and the Senate. Because if you create a third party that has, let's say, 15 representatives
right,
and 3 or 4 senators, you actually control.
right,
Because either party now needs the centrist party. And so
right.
the centrist party will push both parties to the center to get anything done. That's how you change things in
Yeah,
this
but
country.
the problem with that is it's too easy to go the opposite way. Which is, I mean, look what Britain's going through right now. You've got labor on one edge, and you've got reform on the other, that are
Yeah.
actually further extreme outwards.
Uh,
And now it does not working. They're beating against each other, and they're
I think
crushing the center. So
it's one of the problems in this country to only have 2 parties. Like, Brazil has, I don't even know the number of, like, 40 something parties.
oh yeah,
And you have to do these coalitions all the time. Now, it got excessive, right? So now it's like, and it always gets excessive, right? And then it has to come back to the center
yeah.
again and all of that. But you must be having fun, man. Going back to real estate, you must be having fun. How many deals you're working on? And you got to figure out which ones, what happens when you have too many deals. Like, you got to figure out which ones really can get done, right?
Well, so as you're well aware, as much as anybody, probably. I mean, with all the deals you've done over the years, I mean, we can take on quite a bit more projects. We have 40 right now, plus or minus, maybe a dribble less,
Jeez.
38, something like that. Which, by all measures, is, well, two things. One is, it's probably more than all the rest of the companies combined who do this, with the exception of the big brands, maybe. But more importantly,
A big number.
is huge compared to what we would see on average. In a given
And,
years.
and I think you're going to see more.
Oh no, we've got another 10 or 15 already in the pipe that we're starting to set up
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So
You might see 60, 70. You might see 60,
I
70.
I said at the end of 25, and I think I may have even said this to you, I could see 100 deals in
Yeah,
26. I
yeah.
have since revised that number upward to closer to 100 and a quarter. Um,
You know, yeah, yeah, I said this to you. I love this model called co-op, right? The
yeah,
co-op model. I said this to you. It's very common in Latin America. I think this co-op model is going to show up here in the U.S.
yeah,
A lot of these little small brokerages may not. They realize that they can't sell themselves so tight, small that they join forces, create a co-op, which is kind of a loosely company. It is multi-brand, but it's you create an entity that they all have shares in this, but then
yeah,
you sell the big entity,
right.
which is easier for the big. I think it's coming.
Oh, I
I
do.
think the co-op, this sort of co-op model. I had a couple companies reach out to me, and because they heard me say this, I don't know, somewhere, I don't know where, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's coming. And they actually me asked me if I wanted to put something together like that, but I think it's coming.
Yeah.
Like I think this sort of
It, I wouldn't surprise me, and I'll tell you why. Because based on what we're seeing, the big boys are compressing at the top. Okay, fine. We can all see that, but we're getting just a lot of compression at the bottom. But then that middle chunk, let's call it, and I'm going to call it something like 1,000 agents to maybe 3,000 agents or 4,000 agents, something like that. They're sort of in this weird position where they really do need to get a little bigger. I mean, I used to say 1,000 agents plus you could survive it, but in this market, I'm not sure that even that's true. You're probably 2,500 agents plus to really survive and thrive,
oh,
let's call it.
yeah,
So
unless you
that,
have some incredible operational
well,
efficiency, which
yeah,
is
and
yeah,
you do stumble. Look, I
you
mean,
do
I've got two projects right now. They're probably two
you
of the most well-run businesses I've ever seen. Just
you
both independent,
yeah.
both just amazingly. I mean, they have figured out how to just strip every penny out of their companies and keep it lean and mean. Having
You
said
introduced
that,
me. You introduced
that's
me to one. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Having
yeah.
said that, that's two out of, I don't know, what are we up to? A few hundred projects that we've worked on over the years. That's the
Uh,
rarity.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, very rare. Very rare. Like it's I mean you and I probably have seen, I don't know. You probably have seen the thousands of P&Ls. I've probably seen four or 500.
yeah,
And it's very, I mean, you look at them and you go, okay, right there. Well, right,
yeah,
okay, get rid of this, great, right? And
yep,
you see, we go, whoa, there's nothing, there's no fat here. Like
yeah,
this, yeah, there are a couple that's very unique,
yeah.
very
I,
unique.
and I do like seeing them. I have to admit,
Yeah, yeah, because
makes
it's
my
just,
life a lot easier.
you're like, there's hope in the world.
I have renewed faith in
I
humanity.
have renewed faith in humanity. There's somebody that, yeah, because I love when you hear, yeah, but I was talking to a company, let's see, year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a nice size company. And we were just talking about different things, and then I said, so let's talk about your staff. And then he told me that, he's got like, I don't know how many family members in the
Oh
staff,
yeah.
like, and then he says to me, yeah, but I said, look, we're gonna have to do something about that. And he said, yeah, no, no, that's your problem. You have to do that after you buy the company. I'm
Yeah.
not letting my family members go
Yeah.
before you do that. And we couldn't do it, couldn't do a deal, but it was great. I mean, like 14.
Oh Lord, that's
Oh yeah, yeah,
unusual.
like
Unusual.
14. Don't hold me down, but like, it was like 13, 14, something like that.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's a lot of,
That's
your Thanksgiving is not gonna be fun.
oh, that's a lot of. I mean, I'm used to 4 or 5, something like that, but 14. That's a big number.
That was a big number,
I mean,
and
that's.
and it was multi-generational too. So
Geez.
it was, a cousin and a nephew, and then the great. I mean, like, I'm like, oh my God, just emotional stress and all
Oh
that.
yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. There's
No.
only so many hours in a day, man.
Yeah, that's no kidding. So, all
So
right.
you
So
must be
I
having
wanted to
fun.
hang
Yeah,
on. I want to shift gears
yeah.
for a little. So, what do you
Sure.
think? Because you and I both know James. So, what do you think about the EXP Next Home uh, merger?
Uh I'm going to make some statements based on my experience in other industries in terms of M&A. I think sometimes people feel like they have to do a deal.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how I felt this came
I,
up.
I, I think they have to, and both Leo and James are good guys, smart guys, been around a long time, know the industry really well, and they're good
Yeah.
guys. They really
Oh
are,
yeah.
they're good guys, and smart. And I think that sometimes, just because you're, two good guys and good companies, and it doesn't mean they should be married, right?
Agreed.
um Sometimes good friends shouldn't be married, they're just good friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I also always think that time will tell, right? There are deals, like, sometimes I say, look, that will never work, and they're like, wow, it really did work. And then, all the ones that said, oh, it's going to be a great deal, and it turns out to be disastrous, right?
Yeah.
So, time is the, the equalizer, right?
Right.
It's actually not an equalizer. Time is sort of the transparency, right? You,
Right.
you you then really get to see what happens.
Yeah.
Time will tell, right? I mean, we'll see what happens, but um, I uh, the information, everybody thinks they have information,
Everyone's
right?
got the theories. Yeah.
Everybody. I thought James was merging with somebody else. They were in discussions with somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, and another company has maybe 10,000 agents or
Right.
so, or maybe less. Uh, it's a private company, and that's what I thought, but that didn't work out. What I also heard, that those guys that deal between, EXP and J, like, it was gonna close, it didn't close, it was gonna close, it didn't close. I mean, it
Yeah.
was like for maybe a year and a half they were talking,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's true or not. Like I said,
I,
you hear all
no,
these
that's
different things.
I. To be fair, I mean, even though I again, James and I aren't beer drinking buddies. I mean, we know each other, and we
Sure.
probably pick each other out of the lineup. That'd be about the end
Oh
of it.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
having said that, I had heard something similar, that this had been an ongoing discussion for quite some time. So, you know, in the one hand, it's like, yeah, they had been talking for a bit. Now, coincidentally, the timing of the announcement was right when you have all this rest of this stuff going on. So there was probably an advantage for Leo to announce it now, um, because he's publicly traded, and to your earlier point, he needs to make some sort of announcement. But then, more importantly, um, I think he's capturing the zeitgeist of the moment, right? Which is just these
I
big acquisitions.
I always think to myself like, what is the point of an acquisition, right? So what is the goal of? So there are many. You can look at a company that's really running incredibly inefficient, and you can go in there and make them a lot more efficient and
Sure.
make money. I've done that many. Probably I won't call it my expertise because I don't know if I have any expertise, but probably where I have the most scars and some successes in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Um, the other is geographic expansion. Like I
Sure.
want my home group for us was that we wanted to start
Yeah.
growing the West Coast and all of that. Sometimes is I just want the ability to sell more things, and that's gonna give me the ability to do that. So every time I look at acquisition, I'm like, okay, what is you and I know there's conversations going on between two companies right now that one that wants to grow geographic to the whole country, and that makes sense for them. I don't know what the goal of that deal was. I don't that like I sit and think I don't know and again I'm not that smart. I don't know what the goal, and I certainly wasn't in the room, right? So it to me seems like maybe it was just okay. We needed to make a splash, but time will tell.
Oh,
It
exactly.
turned out to
Oh,
be a
sure.
fantastic deal for everybody, and that's great. So, like I said, I I try not to think of myself that smart to figure all this stuff out because I am often surprised, often
You
surprised.
know, it's funny how as I get older, I'm getting dumber. I'm just convinced of it. When you're a young man, you think you know everything, and when you realize this, when you're getting a little older, you
Maybe
go, really don't know as much as
maybe
you
you yeah maybe you'll become wiser knowing that we don't know everything,
think. Yeah,
and
there's something to be said for that, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
so
so I don't know, but I do think that it's so funny because as soon as the deal between Rio and Remax happened, I had a meeting with my leadership and I said to them, I think that EXP, HANA, Element are on the clock.
yeah,
Home services, they're on the clock.
yep,
And boom.
yep,
I mean, literally a week later that happened.
yeah,
And I think there are others on the clock right now. I think there's another three or four companies on the clock right
right.
now, and I, I would I would not be surprised if all of a sudden within the next few weeks there's announcements more, right?
Oh,
So
I know I am reasonably certain because again, REMA is in at least in some small part helping or however you want to put that term or
yeah,
working with the various companies, and I know there's at least two coming uh,
yeah, no question.
that are
Yeah,
that are a thing, and I think you're right. I mean, I think look, Hannah, it has to. I mean, Hobie's been on an interesting trajectory anyway. I mean, he's been expanding, but
yeah,
geographically within the same basic niche of
yeah,
the
yeah. East
Northeast.
Coast,
Okay,
yeah,
and he's doing very well, and good on him. I mean, fourth generation company. Like you don't get a lot of fourth generation real estate companies out there.
not
I
anymore,
mean,
no.
yeah, not anymore. So good on him for what he's doing. Having said that, it's no trade secret that he's been wanting to figure out a way to move west. Well, that could be some interesting opportunities there for him in a
Yeah,
big way.
sure,
Um, to your
yeah.
point, BHHS and all their little subgroups.
That's the to me that's probably one of the I think Hannah and Home Services are two very interesting companies
I do
in a
too.
sense for different reasons, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, Hobie's been very successful. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's a very smart man and built, a great company. People sometimes, oh yeah, he got it from his, great grand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Listen, he built it to a
Yeah.
great business,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
it's don't underestimate that or undervalue that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and home services, like and two different companies or two different reasons. One's a family business, the other one, it's not, and so I think those two companies, either independently or whatever, I would watch those two, and
I
then
agree.
Element, right? What's Element going to
Yeah.
do in New York City?
I know.
And who knows what that. So those are the three companies to
Well,
me. Like I look at them.
I'll even. I'll toss two more at you and just see
Yeah,
get your response. One is Epic, which has.
Mhm.
my opinion, not necessarily, not really what has not really fulfilled itself yet. We'll see how that's going to work. I mean, you know,
Mhm.
and trust me, I can throw pros and cons at the business model all day long, and
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
fine. But
Yeah.
whatever. And then the other one is the agency, um, Mauricio's.
Mauritius company. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an
Interesting.
interesting one to me too. I mean, they've got big plans as far as I can tell, and they're it would seem that they're trying to dip into that strictly luxury market, and
Yeah,
which
they
is
want to
fine.
compete.
There's space there.
They want to compete. They want to compete in that luxury space. That's
Yeah,
his thing. That's his brand. That's his
yeah,
know-how. He's a very smart man.
yeah.
You know, I think he's trying to expand all over the world now, right? And uh, yeah, and both for different reasons, right? I think
Sure.
it would not shock me if there's and maybe there is already. I don't. They're a private company, a significant investment to really accelerate the growth for him.
Right.
But his brand is him, right? And
Yeah.
so that's not going anywhere,
Yeah.
right? So even if he sells the company, he is the brand, and
Right.
that's I don't know him, never met him. I mean, I've seen him a couple times and
Yeah.
listened to him.
No, I've met
um,
I've met him once. We had to sit down with a
yeah,
group, and nice
yeah.
guy. I mean, really nice guy,
Yeah,
very
I'm
personable.
sure he is. Yeah,
The
yeah,
whole thing, and I can't,
yeah.
but I think what's interesting about that is if you really look at, because of the Anywhere merger with
Mhm.
Compass,
Yep.
Christie's and Sotheby's is now in a weird position where I wouldn't say they're cross-platform, but in some sense, I've seen a shift in how people think about them. And so, with Mauricio coming in with the agency to fill in a space, let's call it, in the luxury side, I think actually in some sense he could do very, very well when you factor all the rest of the
Yeah,
changes that are taking
yeah,
place.
yeah,
EV I know is starting to make a bigger push in the US compared to the global, thing.
yeah,
So there's a lot of
yeah.
weird stuff happening in that space.
And we know somebody that went over there, right? So
Yeah.
who's very talented. Yeah. Yeah, look, I think it's gonna be an interesting, who are the companies that survive,
Yeah.
and really not survive. Survive is nobody just wants to survive. Everybody wants to
No.
thrive, right?
Right.
Survive is this, if you're aiming to survive, then you should just go do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, uh, who are gonna thrive? I think I'll tell you what the equal. So funny. When the whole NAR thing happened, I'm like, oh my god, this whole NAR thing is really gonna change. And everybody kept saying that, and I'm saying, I don't know if it's gonna be significant. I just had this feeling like I've always I pay attention to a lot of history in terms of business models. I always go back to Blockbuster, Netflix 1.0, Redbox, and Netflix
Right,
2.0.
right.
I always said, look, I think this NAR thing, it's going to cause some pain. It did cause a lot of pain, but there's something else coming. I didn't know it was going to be AI, certainly, but I have to tell you, man, AI is going to change this business. If I was a software company, and
Yeah.
you know me, I've been in
Oh
technology all
yeah.
my time. I know a guy who's brilliant. I
Yeah.
mean, like genius brilliant, like off the chart brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
and I've been in technology all my life, and he he has 12 different machines writing code for him. He's probably the best code I've ever seen in my life. He
Really.
doesn't write code anymore.
Yeah.
He's got 11 or 12 different AI engines writing code. He can write code now 12 times, and he's already fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
12 times fast.
Yeah.
He can. If I was a software company
Yeah.
in any industry,
Yeah.
I would be. You're in trouble.
Oh yeah.
You are in trouble. And the software companies in this industry are in trouble. In my opinion,
Oh
are
yeah.
in trouble because everything's gonna be about marketing. What can you offer an agent to improve their business? And it used to be like, oh, you want to get the CRM, you want to get this, you want to get that. Now the technology costs pennies, pennies, pennies.
Yeah.
And you can do custom videos, and you can do. I know some people work on some real. We are working some really cool. But everybody is. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
difference is who are the people doing it. So I think that I think the technology software companies in the industry. I think the little guys now. Some of the little guys are going to be able to compete because if they can get rid of their technology costs,
Right.
significantly get rid of their technology costs, which is a lot. You and I know that. Like it could be an equalizer for them because
Yeah,
now they have local. There's a book I always tell you about called Seven Powers, right? Which is about if a company is a superhero, what kind of powers.
right,
And a little business only has one power, which is their local brand, their local
sure,
community. They've been in business, they're
right.
that.
Mom and pop,
And,
everybody knows them. Yeah.
and now that if technology is level playing field, and
Mhm.
the cost of technology and the assets of technology,
Right.
they might be able to survive. And
Well,
and
so a couple of things on that. One is I know you and I have probably have a slightly different viewpoint on the NAR thing. Not that I think the NAR lawsuit in and of itself was a radical game changer. What I think it did was it kicked off a string of just apparent problems that nobody wanted to talk about, and part of that was sort of the starting point of now we've just gone through layer after layer after layer of problems. Too so that I think the industry needed it, by the way. I think this industry has been locked too rigid in how it's been doing things for better part of, I don't know, 50, 60 years, whatever. And that this was actually needed. There's going to be a lot of pain associated with all this, but the NAR is what really kicked all that off. I think you're 100% right. The AI component, the tech piece is going to shift it even further. You add in the fact that we've been way oversaturated with agents coming out of COVID that are now going to have to figure out whether they want to stay in the industry, and probably most won't. There's just and brokerages, their margins are getting thinner and thinner. There is going to be a lot of pain for the next few years, I think, and that's even
well,
without the fact that the home sales are way down, in comparison.
I think AI is going to change the financial structure.
Mhm.
I think that, when companies were paying, think of it as small brokers, like a small brokers with a couple hundred agents, right?
Yeah,
You and I have seen P&Ls where they're spending, 150,000, 250,000 a year in technology, right? What if that goes down to 50 grand?
yeah,
And by the way, it's better, faster,
right,
it helps them grow their business and went
right.
from a quarter million to 50 grand. Like that changes the perspective of the business.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, like it's and part of the automation is not only technology cost but the staff. I mean,
Yeah,
you know that. Like you have a person doing CDAs and agent payments and all that. You can automate all that. We have all the stuff automated at Fathom. So um it can significantly reduce the cost per transaction.
right.
You go to a small brokerage and you say, I'm taking $250,000 of expenses
Yeah,
from your P&L.
pull it
That
out.
changes
It
that
does.
changes things.
Yeah.
And I actually think that the next wave of consulting, I was talking to somebody that you and I know, you know him well, um, is going to be operational efficiencies and technology. Like, but not like, oh, you should go do this, but like really show them you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're
Yeah.
going to do this, and the ones that do it, they'll save quarter million dollars.
Oh, yeah, right
And
off the bat.
yeah,
Well,
I did not anticipate AI moving so quickly. The stuff I'm seeing now, like I said, this friend of mine is a genius.
yeah.
It's one of those guys that you he can't balance his checkbook, he can't balance his bank account, but he's a genius. It's
Yeah, funny how that works.
he works midnight to 6 a.m. I mean, like he's just interesting fellow. But and it's a funny story. He and I know each other for 14 years.
Wow,
Okay, we never met in person.
really?
Never met in person. And I talk to him 3, 4, 5 times a week. But sometimes
Wow.
like as much as you and I talk.
Oh,
And I'm ingenious. Like he calls me all the time. He give me, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I mean it's off the charts. Like I mean he showed me his AI engines writing code and then one goes to the other to test and the other one simulates and the other one goes back to the thing. He can create a website literally. He created a 600,000 page website. Yes, I know.
why? Um,
600, I can't tell you why, but I think a 600,000 page website. Okay.
Okay.
Literally 3 minutes.
Wow.
And it's tested with blogs, with all kinds of gamification.
Yeah. You know, I hear about stuff like that. And I've said this a million times. I just hear the theme for Terminator in my head every time we talk about this stuff, man.
Oh, the thing is that yes, it's just the evolution.
Mm,
So I was in, oh my God, I think I told you this. I went to school for economics, and then I got a master's in econometrics.
yeah,
I wanted to go build, mathematical models and all. I
yeah,
love that stuff. And multiple regression and all kinds of stuff. I got into neural networks maybe 20, 25 years ago.
okay,
And in neural net, I stopped because I felt like it couldn't get to the next level. Like
right.
it had some, it just, could. This is where AI is. AI is the next level. Like
Oh, I know.
AI started neural networks, and
Yeah,
then learn and continues to improve. So it's it's scary and
yeah,
exciting at the same time.
yeah. Well, I don't know if you did. You ever go read the article that we wrote about the transformation, in my opinion, of the industry from a relationship based model to a data based model? Did you ever
Oh
go?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Did you read that? Okay, because that's what we're
I'm a
talking
data
about.
guy.
Is yeah, I mean that's what we're talking about. Is effectively
I,
letting computers, or in this case AI, for lack of a better word, um, become the primary driving force behind the
mhm,
industry, and you
mhm,
strip out,
mhm,
90% or whatever, 95% of the
mhm,
interaction base.
mhm.
It saves
Yeah,
you hundreds of millions of dollars or
yeah.
billions in an industry that's I don't whatever we're at now for the industry at large, however many billions or trillions this industry is, and you go, it's huge. The numbers become so astronomical, and the savings and the speed and the time and the personnel. It's a disruptor, and we're just scratching at it right
2000,
now.
2009, I was president of a big data, small company. It's a startup, big data business. We would do predictive analytics on the Twitter fire hose. We
Yeah,
would have the entire Twitter fire hose, and companies would hire us to analyze sentiment. And let's say, you're an aspirin company, and
yeah,
every time someone says the word headache, what are they saying? What are they going to take? What are they
right,
saying? Would they lie? We did Super Bowl analysis. We did all kinds of analysis. Yeah, it's all about data. How do
yeah,
you use data to figure out who the next customer is, right? Or what they want, what they don't want, and all of that. Yeah, this industry is behind the eight ball, right?
yeah,
And but what makes this industry a little different than you're selling aspirin, right?
right,
Or a lot different is that you're dealing with the biggest transaction someone's ever gonna make, right?
true,
Which is buying a house.
right.
It's a complex transaction. It's
It
not a
is.
simple transaction. There are a lot of moving parts and financing and the so it makes it more complex. So it's a high touch, it's a high touch transaction. It's not it's
And
not the
here's where Marco, here's where I always push back on that. And I did
yeah,
this on I don't know how many times, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
that's today because
Mm,
this is the age group that you and I live in, which is we're used to the way it's been for the last
yeah.
again 50, 60 years, whatever. Our
Yeah.
kids, certainly our grandkids, are not going to view real estate the way we do. And
No, no question.
because they're used to
Yeah,
everything just purchasing online,
yeah. Hmm.
hit check my credit card or whatever, and 24 hours later, it drops off from Amazon or whatever. Like that's their world, and so I think, in some sense, as much as the industry needed to evolve from, let's say, the 1970s to today, in the next 5 or 6 years, it's going to evolve again to
Yep.
try
No
and
question.
keep up with, the next generation of buyers.
Think of it. I was talking to somebody the other day that said, uh, think of it the last 30 years. Go back 30 years, right? So 95, right?
Yeah,
5, 50, yeah, 95. Like, you know, pagers, cell phones. Like, think of it like all
yeah,
the stuff we have
yeah,
that today is like, and it went from that to AI. Like, the
yeah.
next 30 years, who
Oh,
knows? Like,
oh,
yeah, I mean, look, Moore's law is, things accelerate faster and faster, doubling every so there's no question. I mean, the next 30 years, who the heck knows what's gonna happen? I,
I'll
I
be
won't be around.
I'll be dead. I'm fine.
Yeah, I'll be, I'm 62, so I'll be 92. I may be, you never know.
You might still.
I may be still calling being a pain in the ass for you. Uh,
Glad to know you still pee breath for me, buddy.
hey, I still gotta have you in the speed dial. Hey, let's go, Mark.
Like, oh, again, really? And it'll probably
Come
wipe my
on,
hand or something by then. I'll be like, really,
yeah. Like,
Marco? Come on.
where's this guy calling me still? Jesus. But yeah, I don't know. I got an interesting question. What do you think? In the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've gotten two, three calls about the Latino market.
Oh,
And the next year never got anything. Like, and
yeah,
these are big companies. These are big
yeah,
mortgage companies, big lead generation companies, and they were, asking me about what I think about the Latino market and all of that. Have you seen?
yeah.
You talked about the small companies. What have you seen around that space? Or is it too early still?
No, 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 no. I don't think it is. So I think what I'm seeing, the best way I can think to put it is this: more and more of the brokerages that are coming to us and saying, we'd like to be folded into maybe a bigger brand, or we'd like to get sold, or even we'd like to buy, whatever, are, what would we say? They are inquiring, if not full on demanding, that these groups be bilingual. And that doesn't always have to be necessarily Spanish
Yep.
per se, or
Yeah.
Portuguese,
Yeah.
whatever. We've also come across some Asian, if you go to the West
Yeah.
Coast, you get
Sure.
some Asian.
Sure.
But bilingual or even multilingual brokerages are becoming more of the norm. And so as we're moving companies from point A to point B, that's continuing to accelerate in the demand, let's call it, from the buyers. Like if we've got a buyer in, I don't know, I'm trying to think of somewhere fun up north, like North Dakota, and they're saying, we want to maybe expand our reach into, further south. It has to be a bilingual, because that Hispanic influence in the industry at large is becoming more pronounced. Now, where that takes us is a little harder thing to figure out, because in the end, I mean, America has gone through this several times in its history, where large groups of people come in, the culture sort of shifts and changes, and eventually you sort of, you flatten that curve out. So we'll have to wait and see the Hispanic population that's come into America. Are they going to transition to just, let's just, and use an easy one, to go from Spanish to English? It's possible. I mean, that's what's happened in the past. It's not to say
Yeah.
it's not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the companies that we're moving can't, or they should in fact be ready for both. If if in
Yeah.
10 years all the Hispanic population just starts speaking English for no particular reason whatsoever, fine, you've got a brokerage that can handle that. But let's assume they don't, then you've got to be ready for that as a brokerage.
I think,
Hopefully that.
and again, I'm Brazilian and I lived in, I traveled through all of Latin America.
Yeah,
I think I was telling somebody I've been to every country in Latin America and South America except for Belize and Bolivia.
really.
I don't know why I didn't go to the beach. I didn't like the beach. And I think it's more than just language. I think it's a cultural thing. So,
Sure.
they when they buy a house, it's a family thing. Like everybody
Right.
contributes. And that's America. United States is not like I mean, it's like we help our kids buy a house and all that, but it's not typical. Like it's a family thing,
Right.
and it's a cultural thing. The whole family contributes to buy a house, and then when they buy their first investment, what's one of the bigger trends right now I'm seeing is Latinos are getting into real estate investment, and so they
Mhm.
buy the first house, then they
Yep.
buy their first investment house,
Right.
and it's a family thing.
Right.
They all pitch in and they all work together and that's unique,
Yeah.
in my opinion, when you look at ethnic groups and all of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, look, you've been to Europe, and I have as well. There is definitely more of a family culture in most of
Mhm.
these European, I would even say Asian, maybe even African. I've never been to Africa, even though I've got some friends who have been there several times. But America is actually unique in the opposite way. We have fragmented, whereas the rest of the world has been more
What?
culturally family centric. I
What?
use language only as an example because it's easy. But to your point, yeah, I mean, there is a cultural, what a culture is a better way to say it, of close knit family community first, and then everything else sort of secondary in some sense.
How old were you when you moved out of your house
Oh,
when
I
you were a kid?
was, well, I got kicked out when I was 17, but I left
There you
permanently when I
go.
was 18. So
Most people that live in Europe or South America, Central America, I
yeah,
would assume Asia and all that, they leave the house when they get married.
yeah,
At
yeah,
25, 30, they can't
you bet.
afford it.
Yeah,
And so that cultural thing is part of the growing up.
right.
Like I left at 18, 19,
Yeah,
and it's in the US. Now it's changing now
yeah,
because kids cannot afford living,
right,
and
right,
so unless parents help. So we are now becoming more like the rest of the world, right?
right.
Than
Yeah,
but we are different. The rest, people say, oh, everybody's different than we are. No, no, we are different.
right.
The
Boy, that's
rest
the
of
truth.
The rest
Yeah,
of the world is all the same.
yeah,
Like kids don't leave their house until they're 26, 27, 28 when they get married
right.
and they can afford, maybe their own place, right?
Yeah,
So I think real estate is the American. I tell people, and I do some things around the Latino community. I tell people all the time, actually, the American dream is alive within the Latino community because they do look at buying a house as they still can if they all pitch in,
right,
right? They all pitch in, they can buy
right.
a house. And I would actually argue that I think the next 10 years, I think a significant percentage of first-time buyers
Hmm.
are going to be Latinos. Maybe over 50% of all
I,
first-time buyers
I would agree with
are
that.
going to be Latino. And so the brokerages that can, and it's more than just language, it's how do you communicate with them, how you pitch to them, how you work with them, more than just speaking Spanish, right? I
Yeah.
think it's a mistake to think it's all about language. It's about
No,
culture.
it's not. Yeah, and I didn't mean to imply that it was. I was
Yeah.
more just using that as an easy example
Yeah, yeah, no,
than
I get
anything
it.
else.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think
Well,
you're spot on.
if you can't speak Spanish, you can't talk about culture, right? Because you gotta like you gotta be able to hey, right? You gotta be able to
Exactly. Yeah.
communicate, right?
Yeah. 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 No,
And it's
exactly.
multi-generational. Like I've seen conferences I go to where you see it's crazy. You see a husband, a wife, let's say in their late 50s, with their kids who are in their late 20s,
Yeah.
coming to the cup together
Yeah.
to
Oh,
learn
you're right.
about real estate.
I
It's
I I think your assessment about the Latin culture in particular, although again you could make this argument for a lot of other cultures, is just the idea of the American dream.
Mhm.
I know, like, again, I grew up in the West Coast, and I'm going to kind of paint with some broad brushes here, but you learn when you have, say, some Asian friends, for example, which I had many of different kinds, Vietnamese, Chinese, Japanese,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, just broadly speaking, Asian culture.
Man, Mark, you're a likable guy, man.
I know, I tell you. But that is not something you hear a lot of people, at least when I was younger, and again, this would have been the 80s and 90s, who said the dream I'm searching for is the first home. The family may have been important, and it usually always was, but it wasn't necessarily like the next step is that family home. With the Latin culture, it really is. I mean, you talk to a Latin group, and it almost will inevitably always come up. So I think that's, to your point. That's why that culture is going to be such a huge force looking down the road in the
It,
industry at large.
it's owning a home and owning your business.
Yeah,
Owning a home and owning a business. Um, I see it all the time, and it's to me, I think it's a tidal wave that people talk about it, but I don't think they really pay attention to it. And it's a tidal wave, and it's so their birth rates are higher than non-Latinos, and certainly we've had our immigration challenges and all of that, but they're going to be in another 10, 20 years, they're probably going to be 70 million people.
yeah.
I mean, and that's a huge
Well,
market.
certainly, I mean, it's easy to just demographically. We all know that this country will probably be, loosely speaking, primarily white. Latin would be next. Then you've got maybe the Asian cultures, and then sort of black culture, or the sort
Yeah,
of the
African
outliers,
American.
and
Yeah,
the smallest one. So you've got to pay. As a brokerage, you got to pay attention to whoever your
I I would
demographic.
say white. I would say white will be the minority in 20 years.
If you add everybody else together,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
It'll be the
yeah,
minority in 20 years.
yeah,
Yeah, no, yeah. There are a lot of interesting, challenges and opportunities. It's a fascinating industry,
it is, isn't it?
and because you're dealing with so many different the emotional of buying a house and selling your house, the financial aspects,
Yeah,
affording the house. I mean, there's so many different, factors that make this. It's not like buying a car, right?
no,
And it's a fascinating industry, really. And I think the next 10 years and 20 are going to be, I mean, in 20 years from now, you're going to be, we're going to be in our 30s, right? So,
that's right. I'm going backwards now. I'm old enough that I can start doing that. So I'll be
like
back in
you
my
get
30s.
there and you go, okay, now I'm
Yeah,
going
you peek
backwards.
over.
Yeah. And we'll see why, who are going to be the leaders. There's this, if you think about the industry, the leadership are changing, right?
Oh,
To a
absolutely.
younger,
Mhm.
and all that's happening to a much more multicultural.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be, and are you seeing a lot of deals also title and mortgage?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
almost everything that we're doing right
yeah,
now, I should say everything, but most of what we're doing now, those pieces are at least, if they're not full on being talked about, there's an implication that we need to start adding those pieces into the mix. Now, again, the question looking down the
yeah,
road is that a wise move or not? I know financially right now, it's certainly wise to have those extra
yeah,
resources coming in, no doubts. But if you transition the industry to something that's a little different than what it is today, I don't know if you could make that argument. There's a lot of reasons why if you go to a more
yeah,
data driven model, not a relationship driven model,
yeah.
you could make the argument that it may not be as important in 10 or 12 years, something like
Yeah.
that. But now it is. And yes,
It's
we're seeing a lot of that.
yeah, it's a fascinating industry, uh, from all the different things happening, right? The AI, how it's changing, technology, the cultural changes, financial changes. There's a lot of moving parts,
This is why I
and
love what we do, man.
it is, and it's everyday changes. Like you start your day with something, all of a sudden something hits, and
Yeah.
then there's something else, and there's something else, and who the heck knows, man? You definitely are sitting at the epicenter of this incredible disruption happening in this
Oh,
industry, right?
oh, you're
Yeah.
you're right there sitting with me, brother.
Yeah,
So,
but mine is a little different, right? Mine is
yeah,
from running the business and all that. Yours is from these conversations with all these companies that all change. I think of it as as an atom, right? You get the
yeah.
electrons, right? They're all kind of bouncing around and all of that. You're kind of sitting in the center because they're all coming at you and say, "Hey, sell me, buy, can I buy that? Can you sell? Can you help me? Can you do that?"
I'm just trying not to get electrocuted along the way. So,
Right. I think about the electrons bouncing around and all that stuff. And I mean, a day in your life must be an interesting day, like, all the calls and,
uh,
all the emotion, the calls, you
this
can
is
probably
it,
get a degree
this
in
is why you got a
psychiatry
good
already.
team around me, because that way I don't have to feel every
Yeah.
little single thing. It's boy,
Yeah.
people helps. So
By the time you're done, you have a degree in psychiatry.
no, no, I'm fine. Once I'm done, I'm going to sit on a beach for the
Yeah,
rest of my
yeah,
days.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah. Go enjoy your grandkids. Yeah,
Go enjoy
it's
the grandkids.